YouTubers making merch is just a standard thing you'll see across the platform. T-shirts, mugs, hats, and everything in between at my store except for hats and mugs. But a board game? Who would ever do that? A few people. Those people are Dan and Phil, Got One's Out, and today's subject, Tomska. Known for his popular series ASDF movie, would it fare well as a game condensed into a board-like shape? Hello, I'm Daft Pina, and this is Muffin Time. And time to tell you today's sponsor, Vike, specifically the VK1200, but you'll hear about that later. Let's now talk about Tom, because like, who is he, really? Thomas Tomska Ridgewell might be known for his contributions and work on his friend Ed Gould's show Ed's World. However, you might have seen him from ASDF Movie, ASDF being a comedy series revolving around wacky humor, often dealing with death and puns set to animation, with breaks between animation caused by static.
Don't jump! You have so much to live for!
Everybody do the flop!
The first one appearing all the way back in 2008, it still goes on to this day with ASDF 13, or if you're in the future, ASDF 14, or maybe ASDF 15. While this was going on, he created live-action skits that followed the Tomska formula, a thing from my previous video about him. A typical video has Tom and someone else standing around with a shot-reverse shot, with something a bit odd being the thing that they talk about. ASDF subverts this with animation, as it's a lot easier to get people to do things when it's animation. Animation legend Ed Gould passed away in 2012 with lymphoblastic leukemia. Tom, doing what he could, set up Ed's World legacy for his friend. And during development of the show in 2013, Tom got diagnosed with severe depression, mainly due to suicidal ideation, which as Tom puts it, is an obsession with suicide.
For me, it was an obsession with suicide, thinking about it constantly, talking to myself very unkindly in that manner, but never in a way that felt like it was going to really lead to action, I guess. It was just constant thoughts. So that's in my head.
And this will play into the development of a board game, but enough about that, as besides ASDF Movie, he has a passion project called Crash Zoom, a show about a wacky filmmaker and his friends going about their day. Fun fact, the concept of Crash Zoom was originally pitched as an Ed's World short. However, the history behind Crash Zoom deserves a video on its own. Which reminds me, back in 2018, I made a video on Tomska, and a video about Rebecca Parham, but that's not here anymore. In which I had to watch every single video from his second and main channel to get a scope of who he was as a person. The video focused on his decline in popularity, health, and motivation, which were all things shown through his very own words on his channels. He used to have a series on his second channel, Dark Squidge, where he would film himself daily, compiling it into a video. It's like a video log. Like a video log. He'd use it as a way to talk to his friends about what he's going through, without actually confronting them. The video painted a downer picture on Tom, as at the time, that's what was going on. Little did I know that just around the corner, a certain Muffin Time game would be the thing to rejuvenate his career, and it had an interesting development along the way. All the way back in October 2017, YouTubers Dan and Phil released a board game called Truth Bombs, a game that counts as YouTuber merch, yet doesn't really feel like it. I say that as the game's theming isn't specific to the channel of Dan and Phil, and noting on an Amazon review page, Magnus Smith thought it would be rubbish from two whippersnappers, yet pleasantly enjoyed the game. Of course, that's only if you can trust Magnus Smith, whoever this person is. It's me. Made with the company Big Potato, Tom also had the chance to pitch a game to them, and Tom's idea was called Depression? As Tom describes it, it was a snakes and ladders game where things would happen to you daily regarding your depression. He wanted to do it as a teaching tool to those who might understand, but he ultimately thought,
probably a bad idea then, and that was it.
Fortunately, Yeti, a friend and worker of Tomska for Turbo Punch, the company that he works for, that Tom owns, pitched an as-if movie-related game called Die Potato. This one centered around a timer and passing around the turn of a player using cards, and while they had fun with the game when they played at a convention, people were just not feeling it and got angry. And so back to the drawing board. Get it? Because as-if movies like animation, like drawing? Anyway, Tom came up with a game called Random, which revolved around having a certain set of cards in your hand. But the name was later changed to Muffin Time, as not only is the game way easier to search in Google, but also the fact that the song Muffin Time was gaining in popularity. First appearing in As-if Movie 7, the concept of Mr. Muffin came from a combination of feelings Tom had about himself, mixed with the voice of Catbug from Bravest Warriors.
What's something incredibly dark it could say? How about these thoughts that are in my head? Those are pretty fucked up. Yes, suicide. It wants to die.
So full.
You have room for a muffin?
No.
Why won't you let me die?
The success of the property so massive, it actually went viral a few times on the social media platform TikTok, and even won gold? Yes, gold for a silly song. And to this day, it's actually the most watched and well-known piece of as-if movie media. But forget about that, as Turbo Punch, or the Tomska team, went through rigorous testing for the game. Starting with the box, as originally it was going to be circular, but changed to make it a cube as it's easier to stack on store shelves. And for the cards, there were a lot of heres and theres that need to be altered, everything from the text itself, or the way in which things are said.
And there's a card that's to do with your sexuality or gender identity, you're potentially going to put someone in a situation where they either have to like lie and make themselves very sad about that, or out themselves. It's like, that's not fun. That's not fun. So we either remove those cards entirely or just reworded them in a way that would avoid those situations.
All while this was going on, they made sure to play the game with random patrons, friends and family, and anyone they can find, taking notes as it went along, as if anyone got stuck, let's see if we can fix it. And through trial and error, they did as much as they could, so when they presented the game to drunk people, the folks are able to understand the rules. As what's a party game without a few drinks, and why play it if it's too complicated after I drink my apple teeny? August 14th, 2019. After all the testing, the Kickstarter launched with a goal of £10,000. Pounds being British people money, and 10,000 being a way to gauge reaction. To show Big Potato, this idea is worth investing in. As for the average Joe-like person, the eye-catching yet simplistic design of the Kickstarter layout and tiers make it easier to decide if you want to buy it. Using GIFs makes the reading process more engaging than a standard PNG could ever do. As for the tiers of Kickstarter, not these tiers, Tomska and the team wanted to make sure that people wouldn't be left out when supporting the Kickstarter, which is why the latter tiers are just the game duplicated. Or else some people will have to wait a bit longer for the extra items. Like in Cafe Chaos, if you are a super fan and spend a lot, you'll get the game a lot later. Really hope you wanted that backpack. And wow, it was within the first hour that they reached their goal? And in a day they reached 100,000? And by the end they reached over £1 million? Of course, just having money is one thing, but actually making it is the other. While the campaign was finishing up and production was starting, the dreaded coronavirus of late 2019 or 2020 first occurred. Affecting shipments due to restrictions and lockdowns caused the Kickstarter to halt for a bit. No blame can be had on Tom and the team, well, unless they released the virus, but that feels very counterproductive when releasing a party game, so be sure to write that on your notes. COVID was not the only thing to stop the project, as at one point the mailman lost the game.
Big Potato people went and picked it up in their car to go bring it to their office, and they had to go all the way into like Camden to go meet this person with a boot full of boxes.
But after all that crazy mess happened, luckily, the game shipped all across the globe. And I got my copy right here. The base game, the expansion packs, Muffin plush, and a nice pin. And with all the timeline of events out of the way, from the inception, production, and release on store shelves, what can we learn from the development of the game? Now this isn't my first rodeo in terms of board game reviews, as I made one over the animator, The Odd Ones Out's Can't Catch Harry. To recap a bit of the video, here are some of the problems I had with the project. The gameplay is a broken version of Spoons, the rules are full of typos and hard to understand, the graphics look bad, rough cards make it hard to shuffle, and it's a YouTuber game. But these are the opposite with Muffin Time. Starting with the concept, Muffin Time revolves around having 10 cards in your hand by your next turn, with people trying to get rid of or increase the cards so you can't win. This is paired with wacky ways in doing so, such as...
Oh, what's this?
Hey, what's the time?
Here, catch!
Unlike Can't Catch Harry, which try to build upon an already established game, Spoons, Tomska sought to make one from the ground up. Regarding rules, unlike James's first game, Tomska made sure to provide a video on how to actually play it. I mean, like, part of the message boards for Can't Catch Harry note the confusing rules, so having a short video makes it easier to understand. Luckily, they fixed it with the second one. Of course, noting that there's a part in Tom's rules where it encourages arguments, as it could make the game more interesting. The graphics on Muffin Time took a lot before, not after, as making the game visually interesting and easy to read is a must. As for Can't Catch Harry, either from the board or the box itself, to me something feels incomplete. It could be that the gamepad is solid blue, I think. I mean, on the rules it's a blackboard. Wait, no, in the final release it has some drawings on it. Oh look, there's The Odd Ones Out. Or that between the two, Muffin Time realized that people buy the expansion, it needs a place to stay. And for Can't Catch Harry, it doesn't, so you'll just have to have it loose. This is noting, of course, that Muffin Time comes with a game mat that doesn't fit in the box. However, this was just a Kickstarter thing, and the retail version doesn't need it to exist. So I guess you can forgive the mats for not having a place to stay if it's not sold in the final version, but then Can't Catch Harry sells the expansion, so I don't know. And the way you read both games is why I called James's a YouTuber game, rather than just a game. While Muffin Time is based on a famous property, it doesn't need the property to sell the game when the YouTuber is out of the picture. Say for just being on a store shelf, where someone might see the game. The average Joe related person might just look at the box and go, aha, stick figure things. And despite both styles being simplistic in design, one is based on a real person, while the other is based on a character. A person can be irrelevant and taken down due to their own actions, which as we've seen lately, anyone can be devious and dastardly. Yoof! But a character is fictional. It's a lot easier to get attached to an idea rather than trying to relate to content that you have to appreciate before liking the game. Noting, of course, Can't Catch Harry, which... wow, we're like talking about this game a lot for some reason. The property being promoted is overshadowed by the creator, so much so that they're more easily seen on the box art than the actual game being sold. Also, it says an Odd Ones Out game on the front cover. And so it feels like a YouTuber game rather than a game that happens to be made by a YouTuber. You might be asking why I'm harping on this Kickstarter game. With regards to expanding your brand and not putting all eggs in one basket, more profit could have been made if this game focused around Can't Catch Harry by itself, rather than the creator of Can't Catch Harry, which is plastered all over the box. Moving on to cards. Between the regular cards and the expansion packs, there is a noticeable size difference. But the thing is, they fixed it. They acknowledged a mistake in a Kickstarter update and actually sent out free new versions with an apology card, one that I received. So what was once a negative became a not negative, whatever that is. But at least when it comes to the sizes, it makes it a lot easier to shuffle overall, even if a bit rough. Side note, the Kickstarter itself did a good job keeping people up to date with the project, even through the delays. And marketing of the game went pretty well with the hype done through Tom's videos, live streams, and advertisements on board game websites. A proper advertising campaign goes a long way when you're trying to sell an idea, because as mentioned before, although it's based on a famous property, you're trying to sell to a new audience, the public. Ooh. I mean, I guess it helps that it went viral on TikTok a few times, but not all of us are that lucky. And you know what? This board game did something I didn't think was possible when I first reviewed Can't Catch Harry. Muffin Time is a YouTuber-based board game that is able to entice new audiences with the property, yet acts as a love letter to its own fans with references to said property that actually stand well on its own for jokes. Perhaps Magnus Smith would also like the game. One can only dream. Ow, I look directly in the light. From proper time and development, cost-effective design, proper promotion and care for the fans, I'd highly recommend this game to anyone who would like a night of fun. But what about Tom? You know, the person behind Muffin Time? I mean, there's like a whole team behind it that did a lot of hard work, but what about Tom? Let's go. As it has been nearly 3 years since my last video on Tom, let me tell you there was a massive turnaround mainly due to Muffin Time itself. Not so much the game per se, but actually the song. Also look, I'm on the Tomska set. Real. While writing with the Gregory brothers, Tom wanted to convey his thoughts and feelings about letting go. Was it his time to leave the internet and go do something else? What is left for him on the platform?
I want to read you some of these lyrics because they were cracking me up.
Oh no.
Everyone has to learn to let go, unless the special someone is fictional.
Well, ironically, the song about feeling irrelevant was the same song to go viral on TikTok a few times. And even when promoting Muffin Time the game with Absif Movie 12, he was able to show himself up from the previous cartoon, one that he disliked a tad bit.
Remember that fucking classic? Fuck you!
It's a book.
We all make choices in life! What where is that from? Elliot, play a clip.
And continuing to pursue the second channel Dark Squidge, which really needs an update with the icon and banner, as at this point it's less of a second channel and more of a entirely new thing. But he does occasionally post on his main channel with the likes of animations and skits. But due to Tomska's perfectionist tendencies, not much was put on there in 2020, as only 7 videos were produced. And as for Crash Sim, it took over a year for the writing of one of them to be done, so it might be a bit until that Kickstarter is fully fulfilled with its project goal. Unlike Long Gone Gold, which is out, and I don't know, I might talk about it. Talking about is something Tom has done less of, as his vlogging series came to a close. The same series showed a deeper side of Tom where he talks about himself, and he was very open about his popularity, health, and motivation, often using the series as a way to talk to his friends about his problems, but not talking to them as they'd be the ones who would often edit his vlogs. My last video was about apologies, forgiveness, and a creator trying to do better than they were from their past self. And with Tom, it's a bit of the same. He made the I Hate Tomska master post, in which he describes everything that people hate about him, and explaining himself to those haters with an update here or there. As this is nice to have, as anyone can link it if they have a question about what he did in the past. However, the worst reality is that most people don't care. People will take you out of context, misconstrue the meaning of whatever you did, and no matter what you do, people's minds will be changed. This is what happened in my last video. As part of seeing that someone can change is being open, that they can. For Tom, he did. With nearly 3 years passing since my last video on him, his reintroduction to the internet gave new life to his online presence and himself. Everything from stopping the vlogging series, accepting who he is, and trying to produce better works, he is truly not the Tom that I first saw in my video. These small things add up to show that actual change is being done, not from a specific master post, rather gradual improvements amongst his success shows a bigger growth that a singular post can never show.
And that, my friends, is the story of the muffin that saved my life, that preserved my livelihood and enabled this fat fuck of a phoenix to rise from the ashes at least one more time. I will now bid you adieu and see you for the next thing, because you better believe there's gonna be something new, because I'm still here. Thanks for watching. Tomska out.
Now what did we learn today? A lot of fun things. Yay! If you want to make a board game, make sure it can stand well on its own and be sure to promote it through many different avenues. Try and take time in making the game good before promoting it, instead of constantly doing repairs after the fact, as first impressions mean everything. Next, to make a game that reads easily with no confusion is always a must, as if it's a party game, one must factor in alcohol. And if the game is hard to play without it, well, you're not gonna have fun. Lastly, about Tom, people can change for the better. In my last video, Tom was shown to be feeling irrelevant, lacking creativity, and possibly on the out of his career. However, that is far from the facts of today. In this case, it's not that you can't teach an old dog new tricks, where the old dog was showing off tricks that we've never seen before. And they were fun. But I have cats. They don't do anything. Also, Tom is like 30. And if you think that's old, wait till you're 31. Whenever that happens. And that was the video. If you loved it, don't forget to give it a like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts about the entire thing. Buy my merch at CrowdMade, and support me on Patreon to help for future videos. Thanks to my lovely patrons on screen. Now for today's sponsor, Vike. The Vike 1200 is a slim 8mm 1080p monitor tablet with 72% NTSC color range, 8,192 pressure levels, virtually no parallax when drawing, and 6 shortcut keys. This is a great tablet for the price. Don't forget to check the links in the description below to learn more. Until next time, please, don't forget to have fun.